You already know before you look. That is the thing nobody talks about. The way your body knows before your eyes. Confirm it. The slight hesitation before you open the app. The small internal brace that happens in the half second between pressing the icon and the screen loading. You have been here before. Maybe not this exact moment, but this feeling. This particular weight in your chest that arrives when the number you are about to see is going to be smaller than what you need it to be. You open the app anyway. Because you have to. Because rent is due in 4 days, and the electricity bill cleared yesterday, and you need to know exactly where you stand, even if where you stand is somewhere you do not want to be. The screen loads, $43.17. You stare at it. You close the app. You open it again as if the number might be different the second time. It is not different. It is exactly $43.17, and that number is going to have to last you until Friday when your paycheck comes in, and Friday is 6 days away, and the math is not working no matter how many times you run it in. Your head. You put your phone face down on the table and sit very still for a moment. This is not a crisis in the dramatic sense. There is no emergency. Nobody is in danger. You have a roof over your head and food in the refrigerator, and the lights are still on. By any reasonable global standard, you are not in genuine hardship. You know this. You remind yourself of this regularly, because the guilt of feeling stressed about money when others have so much less is its own particular weight that you carry alongside the stress itself. But the number is still $43.17, and the rent is still due in 4 days. You start doing what you always do in this moment. You start mentally cataloging everything you own that could theoretically be sold. The laptop you need for work, the phone you are holding, the television that cost you $300 2 years ago and would sell for $80 at best. You go through the list with the practiced efficiency of someone who has had this thought process before, and you arrive at the same conclusion. You always arrive at nothing you can part with will solve the immediate problem, and everything you cannot part with is not actually available. You think about who you could call. You go through the mental list of people in your life, and beside each name you place a silent calculation of what it would cost you in pride, in obligation, in the subtle shift of dynamic that happens when money enters a personal relationship. Your mother would help without question, but she is already stretched, and you swore to yourself 6 months ago that you would not put that on her again. Your friend Marcus has offered before, but Marcus talks, and you cannot afford for this to become a story that gets told at dinner tables. Your cousin would probably say yes, but your cousin would also never let you forget it, and you have enough weight to carry without adding that particular kind of debt. You decide not to call anyone yet. You decide to sit with the problem for a little longer and see if there is a solution you have not found yet. You open your laptop and you look at your bank account from a wider view, not just the checking account. Everything. The savings account has $12 in it, the remnant of a direct deposit split that you set up during a more optimistic month and never canceled. The credit card has $400 of available credit remaining on a limit you have been slowly consuming over the past 3 months. You look at the credit card balance and feel the specific shame of watching a number that was 0 14 months ago grow into something that now requires a minimum payment that itself contributes to the problem you are trying to solve. You open a spreadsheet. You do this when the anxiety gets high enough. You convert the formless dread into numbers, because numbers at least have edges, and dread does not. You list every expense due in the next 30 days. Rent, electricity, phone bill, internet, groceries, the minimum payment on the credit card. The total sits on your screen, and you look at it next to the income you are expecting, and the gap between the two is not catastrophic, but it is real, and it is not going to close by itself. You have been in this position before. Not always this tight, but in this general neighborhood of financial stress more times than you would like to count. And each time you have managed. Each time something shifted, an extra shift picked up, an unexpected small windfall, a bill that was smaller than expected, and you got through the month and told yourself that next month would be different. Next month, you would be more careful. Next month, you would put something aside before the expenses arrived instead of after. Next month, you would build the buffer, That would mean you never had to sit at this table staring at $43.17 again. It is always next month. You close the spreadsheet. You make yourself a cup of tea because it costs nothing and because having something warm to hold makes the thinking feel slightly less cold. You sit back down at the table and you look at the problem from a different angle. Not how do I get through this month, but how did I get here? And more importantly, what is the architecture of a life that keeps producing this moment? Because this is not bad luck. You know it is not bad luck. Bad luck is specific and occasional. This is structural. This is the result of a pattern that has been running quietly in the background of your financial life for years, and that pattern has a shape and a logic, and it can be understood if you are willing to look at it without flinching. The pattern looks like this. Income arrives. Relief arrives with it. Relief produces spending, not reckless spending, not dramatic spending, just the ordinary spending of a person who has been holding their breath for 2 weeks and finally exhales. The spending consumes the buffer before the buffer has a chance to become a buffer. The next expense cycle begins before the last one has fully resolved. The gap between what comes in and what needs to go out is never large enough to accumulate into genuine security, and so genuine security never arrives, and so the holding of breath continues and the cycle repeats. You have known this for a while. Knowing it has not been enough to change it, because knowing a pattern and interrupting a pattern are two completely different skills, and nobody ever taught you the second one. You pick up your phone again. Not to open the bank app this time, to open the notes application. You start writing. Not a budget. You have made budgets before, and the budgets always look perfectly reasonable on the screen and perfectly irrelevant by the second week of the month. You write something different. You write down what you actually want your financial life to look like in 12 months, not the fantasy version. The realistic version. The version that requires specific changes to specific habits and produces specific different outcomes. You write that you want a buffer of $1,000 that does not get spent. You write that you want the credit card balance to be zero. You write that you want to stop having this particular evening, this particular combination of a phone face down on a table and a number that does not work. Then you write the first step. Just the first step. Not the whole plan. Not the transformation. Just what you can do tomorrow morning that is different from what you did yesterday morning. You write, transfer $10 to savings before spending anything else. $10. It will not solve anything immediately. It will not close the gap or clear the card or build the buffer in any time frame that feels meaningful from where you are sitting tonight. But it will interrupt the pattern. It will create the habit of paying yourself first, even when paying yourself first feels absurd given the amount available to pay yourself with. It will be the first time in longer than you can remember that money moved in the direction of your future before it moved in the direction of your expenses. You close the Notes app. You pick up your tea. It has gone slightly cold, but you drink it anyway. The account still shows $43.17. Nothing has changed in the numbers. But something has shifted in the room, in the quality of the silence, in the way you are sitting, in the difference between a person who is trapped by a problem and a person who has decided to understand it. Friday is still 6 days away. The math is still not working. But you are no longer just staring at a number. You are starting to see through it. And that is where everything, every financial turnaround, every rebuilt life, every story of a person who went from empty to enough, that is exactly where all of it begins, not with more money. With a different relationship to the money that is already there, even when what is already there is $43.17.